Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you very much, as always, for watching, for listening, following, subscribing. I appreciate y'all very much. Today's episode is presented by Golf Dojo. Your space, your time, your game. Bring your game to Golf Dojo, Western New York's best indoor golf experience. Visit mygolfdojo.com. It is good to have you here today. Today is our Podbag episode. This is the weekly episode where you control the narrative, the topics of the show, your questions, your comments, your takes. I pull the best ones and put them together and respond to them on today's show. Before we get cooking, if you want your comments, questions, takes featured on another episode, pretty simple, man. All you got to do is go to one of our YouTube videos. Almost every episode is available on YouTube. Just leave a comment there, or you can tweet at me at Patrick Moran TV, or email us at talkingbuffalopodcast@gmail.com, and I will pull your question, your comment, your take, and get it featured on a future show. Speaking of future shows, before we get going here, I want to let you know that Friday, I'm going to have Bruce Nolan on with me, and I'm excited to have Bruce on. It's been a while since I've had him on, and I'll tell you what. So Bruce last week he resurrected the Bruce exclusive. Many of you know, if you follow along to a lot of Bill's content creators, the Buffalo Rumblings podcast network got completely shut down a handful of months ago by Vox Media, who runs SB Nation. That really sucked. There were some really good, talented podcasters with that network. Slowly but surely, some of them have started to resurface. Joe Miller is now doing his own thing. He's got his Overreaction Sports Network, and he's teamed up with former Buffalo Bills John Fina and Jerry Ostrowski. So they're doing their thing. And with Bruce is easily one of the most liked, one of the most knowledgeable, one of the most talented, one of the most respected Buffalo Bills podcasters in this game today, period. And he did not have a podcast for, I want to say, around 3 months or so. Did not know what he was going to do. He was kind of going through his options. And last week he announced that his podcast was returning. Buffalo Rumblings is starting kind of their own podcast network, but he's on his own separate feed, his own separate channel. So the Bruce Nolan, or the Bruce exclusive, returned last week. And I'll tell you what, he showed it. He put up a tweet, and I saw it. I couldn't believe it. Apple charts, number 4 in the United States among all football podcasts. I have followed the charts a lot, not just with this show and, several other Bills podcasts. I kind of like to keep my eyes on how things are going, how people are doing. And I don't think I've ever, in fact, I've never seen once any Bills content creators have a podcast episode or a podcast that was in the top 5 in the entire United States under football. So anyway, it is great to have him back. I'm going to have him on Friday. We're going to talk tons of Buffalo Bills getting ready here for training camp, which is just now a couple weeks away. So we'll talk plenty of Bills, but I'm also going to talk to him about that process and what his mindset was after his initial podcast got canceled by Vox, and if he considered giving this up and some of his other options that were out there, and what ultimately made him decide to do what he's doing today. So anyway, that'll be a lot of fun. We'll be doing that on Friday. One other thing, off topic, and I know this is off topic, but I want to hear from you on this. I put up a tweet, and I'm recording this Tuesday around lunchtime-ish. I put out a tweet, and I also put something on my Facebook about hot sauce. And long story short, I basically said people who take hot sauce, bottles of it, and keep it in their fridge are the devil. Borderline criminal activity. Hot sauce, to me, should be room temperature and should be kept in your cupboard, not in your fridge. I bought a bottle of hot sauce, a brand new flavor that I was looking forward to trying, and I went to put some on some chicken that I prepared here for lunch, and my wife put it in the fridge, and that shit is freezing. I'm like, how do you even? What's the taste supposed to be like? It's not supposed to be cold. Hot sauce is not meant to be cold. What's your take on that? Maybe I'm wrong. Again, comment on this video, send me a tweet or whatever. I'd love to hear your hot sauce storage takes, because I put some on my Twitter and within minutes, it's like a back and forth response, man. Polarizing topic. And I did not expect that. A lot of people are telling me I'm nuts. Some people agree with me. Want to know what you think? I don't have any segue to get into this pod bag here, but we're off and running. Here we go. This first one I love too. This is one of my favorite questions or comments, I should say, that I have gotten since I started doing this pod bag several weeks ago. It's from a gentleman named Corbin. And Corbin says, what's probably the thing about the Bills people take for granted more than anything else? And I've spent some time thinking about this. This was said to me a couple days ago, and I really have. I've spent some time thinking about this and where I landed. And some people might roll their eyes a little bit. So make sure you give me a chance to explain here. But I've actually landed on Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is the thing about the Buffalo Bills right now that most people take for granted. And I want to be clear. Josh Allen is a star quarterback in this league. Josh Allen's a superstar quarterback in this league. Josh Allen, in some regards, is one of the faces now of the NFL. I mean, he quite literally was on the Madden cover last year, and he's far and away the most popular player in this organization, not just now, maybe since all the way back in the days of Jim Kelly during his prime. So I'm not saying that Josh Allen flies under the radar. He doesn't. But this isn't a question about flying under the radar. This was a question about taking him for granted. And you could be a great quarterback in this league and still be taken for granted. And I kind of feel like right now, a lot of fans, a lot of content creators, a lot of media, we kind of take it for granted how great Josh Allen is and how much he means to this organization, in part because we don't really even talk about him that much. Like when you see Bills training camp previews, and if you haven't seen them yet, you're certainly going to be seeing them over the next couple weeks or so, or season previews, or we talk about, the keys to the Bills being a good team this year, or we talk about the biggest question marks with the Buffalo Bills going into the season. It's almost like in that regards, Josh Allen will fly under the radar. Like keys to training camp. Will we see the old Von Miller? I'm just throwing out some examples here. Is this going to be the year Greg Rizzo breaks out? Is this the emergence of Khalil Shakir? Can he become a top-tier slot receiver in this league? Was Spencer Brown a little bit of a fluke last year, or is this guy a really, really good right tackle? Can Matt Milano stay healthy for a full season? What will the Bills' safety position look like with either Cole Bishop or Taylor Rapp alongside Mike Edwards look like compared to Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer? How much will the Bills miss Stephon Diggs? How much will the Bills miss Trey White? Did the Bills make a mistake cutting Mitch Morse and moving Connor McGovern to center? These are all legitimate, great questions, great talking points. And I spend, other content creators spend, the media spends, the fans spend time thinking and discussing these topics because they're all great. What was the one common denominator that I just left out? All those questions, all those highlights, all those things to lock in on. What just now did I fail to mention? Josh Allen. It's Josh Allen. I didn't even mention Josh Allen. All those talking points, good talking points, and you don't even mention Josh Allen because you know he's great. You know he's going to put this team on his back. You know to this point he's been durable and reliable, and he's been pretty damn consistent. So, in that regards, it's almost like you take that for granted. You take how great he is for granted. There's so many other good to maybe very good quarterbacks around the league where that organization, that fan base does not have the luxury of taking their guy for granted because they're quarterbacks that are talented but still have some major question marks. Um, Justin Herbert, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott. Are these guys great quarterbacks or are they just pretty good? I don't think we know that answer yet. Maybe we'll start to learn more this year. Maybe we will get that answer this year. But so far, those guys have been good to pretty good. But I don't think they've been necessarily great. They certainly got question marks. And those fan bases, those media outlets, those organizations, they need answers. They're going to question it. They're going to talk about it a lot. They don't really even talk about that in Buffalo, right? I mean, you got a couple teams out there, including one in the AFC East, the New York Jets. I feel like they got a pretty stacked roster. Big question mark at quarterback. Huge talking point, right? Ditto, Cleveland Browns. Nobody talks about the Cleveland Browns. Shit. That team, minus the quarterback position, might be as good or at least close to as good as anybody in the AFC. I mean, they got a great running back who'll be back healthy this year. They got Jerry Jeudy with Amari Cooper. They got a great defense. But they got a quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Is he washed up? Is he cooked? Is he done? Who knows? So all these quarterbacks and all these teams, there's still a lot of question marks. There's still a lot of talking points. I don't think you take that for granted. You're a Jets fan, you ain't taking the quarterback position for granted. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you ain't taking the quarterback position for granted. In Buffalo, we kind of do here because Josh Allen is a top 3 quarterback in this league. And I think you can make a very fair and reasonable case. And this isn't really supposed to be a diatribe about where Josh Allen ranks among the league's best quarterbacks, but I'm saying anyway. I think you can make a very fair and reasonable assessment without being homerific about it that Josh Allen is number 2 in this league. Patrick Mahomes is number 1. Josh Allen might be physically as gifted, maybe even more gifted than Pat Mahomes, but there's no world that I want to live in where Patrick Mahomes is not the number 1 quarterback based on what he's done, based on winning multiple Super Bowls. It's Pat Mahomes first. But after that, don't tell me Lamar Jackson. I know he's won 2 MVPs, and I'm not even going to take away the fact that last year was one of the least impressive MVP campaigns we've ever seen. He still won MVP, right? He's won 2. But he's been lousy in the playoffs. 2-4 in the playoffs, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions for his career in 6 playoff games. Not good enough. So I can't put him right behind Mahomes. I would love, and maybe I would put Joe Burrow right there. I think him and Josh Allen are neck to neck. But for me personally, and again, I'm not even being a homer here, folks. Joe Burrow has played 4 years, and he has missed big chunks of 2 of them. Now, the 2 years he's played the full season, he has led his team to a Super Bowl, and he has led his team to the AFC Championship game. And quite frankly, he has dominated the Buffalo Bills the couple times that he's faced them. But again, going to the point of taking Josh Allen for granted here, Joe Burrow has suffered multiple major injuries, whereas Josh Allen gets banged up all the time, but your boy don't miss football games. He plays. He's out there every game. He's out there every week. I feel like we almost take that for granted. And that whole countdown thing The reason why Josh Allen isn't even in the conversation for number one, I don't think it's Josh Allen's fault, because I think in the postseason, minus the 2022 divisional loss against Cincinnati, where I think Josh Allen stunk, thought he was terrible. And, I also think and suspect, and it's widely speculated, we'll just leave it at that, that there were outside factors that were a distraction to Josh leading up to the game, maybe even during the game. Who knows? But he wasn't good that game. But you throw that game out, I mean, come on. 2021, one of the most iconic fourth quarters you'll ever see. Played good enough for the Bills to win. Hell, last year, he played good enough, more than good enough, for the Bills to beat the Chiefs at home in the divisional round. It was the defense that completely let Josh Allen down. Josh Allen has been let down by his teammates plenty in the postseason, where somebody like Joe Burrow, I feel like the Bengals have kind of almost like won in the playoffs with him just being a complimentary part instead of the guy that stands out. But again, I want to be careful here, because this is not intended to be a conversation about who is the best quarterback. My whole point was this: Josh Allen is so good. He's so reliable. You could have a million other talking points, but at the end of the day, if Josh Allen stays healthy, if Josh Allen plays at the level that he has been playing at and that we expect him to continue playing at for years to come, the Buffalo Bills should get to 10 wins pretty much every season, because Josh Allen will win you at least a handful of games. He will put his team on his back. And with all the other talking points, it almost becomes background noise and taking it for granted that that Josh Allen is as good as he is. All right, a real quick break here to let you know, hey, golf fans, and I know there's plenty of you out there watching and listening right now, want to let you know that whether you're a beginner that's brand new to the sport, trying to truly learn the game, or even if you're a regular fixture on the course, looking to get your game up to that next level by getting lessons, I'm here to tell you right now that the teaching pro you need in your life is definitely Jeff Metis, an award-winning PGA professional. Jeff has been helping golfers of all skill levels get the very most of their ability for nearly 3 decades. Jeff is also a well-known voice of golf off the course, as well as co-host of the Tee to Green Show on WGR 550 alongside Brian Cozio. Lessons with Jeff Metis will drastically change your game for the better. Trust me, I am seeing it right now firsthand. Visit www.mygolfdojo.com to book your lessons with Jeff Metis today. All right, let's continue here. Dr. Rick says that DeMar Hamlin fake punt call topped Pete Carroll not giving the ball to Marshawn Money Lynch at the goal line in the Super Bowl. That is some hyperbole, my guy. No way. You are comparing a early fourth quarter special teams botch compared to not winning a Super Bowl because you didn't hand the ball off to your stud running back inside the 2-yard line. Russell Wilson throws the ball. He's picked by Malcolm Butler. Literally, that play determined the Super Bowl. So if we're being serious about dissecting this, that's definitely hyperbole. Look, I feel like this when it comes to that call. It's an armchair quarterback situation right now. I've remembered a play. My first thought was, well, Ty Johnson should have been out there. Ty Johnson should have been out there taking the snap. He's a running back, not a backup safety. That part I get, but maybe if Ty Johnson's out there and if, a special team coordinator is doing their homework, that raises a red flag. If Ty Johnson's not usually out there, and I don't know that he was. I don't think he was. But a player, if you do your homework and that guy is out there, that's going to raise your antenna if you're a special teams coordinator, and maybe you see it coming. It was supposed to be about an element of surprise. The last thing you would expect Sean McDermott to do in a playoff game is run a fake punt deep in his own territory with a backup safety. So I feel like this. Did it work? Hell no. Did it matter? This is something else. Let's to your point about it being the worst call, whatever, it didn't matter that much. It didn't matter because Kansas City did not score on that drive. If you remember, they were going in to score, and Jordan Poyer was one of the few players on defense that entire game that actually made a play, put his helmet on the ball, knocked it out of like the 1 yard line, and Kansas City did not score. So that did not cost them points. And in terms of the call, it sucks that it was a botch. But again, if it works, you're sitting there and you are singing the praises of Sean McDermott. And one of my most, the things about Sean McDermott through the years that have annoyed me the most is that I feel like he's a lot more aggressive in the regular season. And then in the playoffs, the noose gets tight. He tightens up. He's conservative. So I can't put him on blast. I can't rail on Sean McDermott for coaching scared when he's got the balls to attempt a fake punt in that situation. Nobody saw it coming. It didn't work because 4 different guys, and I don't care enough right now to have to go all the way back and look it up in the All-22. But I do remember the play didn't work because ain't nobody made a block on that play. 4 people missed their block. Quentin Morris was one, Spencer Brown. I'm not going to go through it. It doesn't matter. My whole point was this. It was terrible execution. And in hindsight, yeah, it's not going to work, whatever. But you can't be that guy who calls Sean McDermott scared and a coward and conservative and then rail on him because he tries a fake punt. Should he have done it with DeMar Hamlin? No, that's not the first choice. But again, that's about the element of surprise. If you got Ty Johnson out there, if you got Latavius Murray out there, you might suspect that it's coming. And it was supposed to be all about the element of surprise. So I'm sorry, man. I can't get with that, man. I cannot criticize Sean McDermott. I cannot rail on him for attempting to be aggressive when his reputation in the postseason has been somebody who coaches tight and coaches scared. At Spencer Member 6 says, name me a Bills trade that happens before week 1. Good question. It's hard to say because, throughout camp and the preseason, somebody's bound to get injured. And when someone gets injured, they might be thin at that spot, and then they might make a trade at that point. Or somebody, I just mentioned DeMar Hamlin. I personally, as things stand right now, I don't think DeMar Hamlin is going to make this roster. So rather than cut him, I could see the Bills trading DeMar Hamlin for a late round draft pick. But that's kind of taking the easy way out. That's almost like low-hanging fruit. Brandon Beane seems to do that every year. Get something for a player, Boogie Basham, Wyatt Teller. It didn't work out, but you know what I'm saying? It's like every year he makes these trades. Darryl Johnson a couple years ago. He makes these trades and he ends up getting a pick for a player that he's probably going to cut. So that's the easy answer. But if we want to flip it, make it a little tougher, go the other way around, as things stand right now, again, prior to camp in the preseason, I look at this roster, I would say the most likely area where Brandon Beane would make a trade to acquire a player would probably be corner. Now, I'm going to say cornerback. I think you're set at starter. In fact, I know you're set at starter. You got Rasul Douglas. You got Christian Benford. Solid as a rock there. And then you got Kyrie Elam. He's your boundary corner. He is, right now, what you hope he is he's your Dane Jackson. Before that, you're Levi Wallace. Somebody who you can count on to not have the play fall off a cliff if he's got to go in the game. But Kyrie Elam has been so up and down. Kyrie Elam has been one of the great enigmas of this organization to me in the last, I'll even go as far to say the entire Sean McDermott era. Because in some ways, it feels like when he's on the field, he's actually making plays. He had an interception last year in the playoffs. But he makes a lot of mistakes. Maybe some mistakes that the average fan or average media person doesn't even see. Because he always seems to be in the doghouse and he seems to not have the trust of Sean McDermott. I remember camp last year so well because I was kind of locked in on him. I thought he was going to be a starter last year. Trey White was coming back, and then it was a 3-headed competition between Kyer, Dane Jackson, and Christian Benford. And I also remember The Bengals, we talked about earlier when Josh stunk the bed. Most of the team stunk the bed in that Bengals loss in the playoffs. Not Kyrie Elam, though. I thought Kyrie Elam played pretty well. I thought he had a lot of momentum going into last summer. So I thought it was Kyrie Elam's job to lose with Dane Jackson being the safety valve. Turns out the guy spent the least amount of time thinking about Christian Benford wins the job. And Kyrie Elam just had another irrelevant year, putting him right on the verge of being that first round bust. But anyway, I just remember camp last year because he would look spectacular, Kyrie would, one day. And then the next day, he'd be getting screamed at by the coaches, mistakes in coverage, holding calls, really handsy, and he'd just be in the doghouse. Now, I don't know if that's going to change. That's what I'm getting to. Bobby Babich is now defensive coordinator. Maybe that can help him. He changed his number from 24 to 5. Maybe it's a mental thing. Maybe that'll help him. I don't know. But does Brandon Beane, does Sean McDermott trust this guy right now to be that third corner? If he don't have a great camp, I could easily see Brandon Beane finding a team, finding a Levi Wallace type, a Dane Jackson type, a veteran guy that you can count on to come in and have a high floor, not a high ceiling. Like Kyrie Elam's probably got a high ceiling, but he's got a low floor. I think Brandon Beane might do something completely the opposite there and maybe swing a trade for a corner. One more, and then we're going to take an ad break here. At William Allen, 7984. Bro, 6 straight AFC championships, 4 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl wins, and it doesn't feel like they have a stranglehold on the conference? What would they need to do to make it feel that way? Kansas City is the only team that has earned the right to not have any question marks this year. LOL. All right, that is in response, and thank you, by the way, for that, William. That's in response to yesterday's show. I had Anthony Marino with me, and the topic of the show was one big question mark from every AFC team. And we had a question mark about the Kansas City Chiefs because, again, we were doing it for every team. I feel like I sort of, maybe I didn't, apparently I didn't do it enough, but how could you not consider Kansas City the favorite? They're back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and they arguably got better on offense this offseason, but they lost L'Jarius Sneed. They traded him because they didn't want to, or they did think they had to pay him. That's a big loss. It's a big loss to that secondary. Well, look, I'm not going to sit here and say you're wrong. You're right. They're clearly the favorite of the AFC. They have to be. They're proven. They've won. They got the best quarterback in the world. And they went out, last year they won. It's crazy about the Chiefs too. So 2 years ago, they traded Tyreek Hill, still won the Super Bowl. Last year, the offense stunk for a lot of the season, turned up some in the playoffs, enough anyway, and they won a Super Bowl. And this year, they went out and they signed Hollywood Brown, who I think is going to be a sneaky, huge addition to them. They moved up in the first round, traded with the Buffalo Bills. And they took Xavier Worthy. So they got speed for days now at wide receiver. They're looking to be more explosive. So the Chiefs are favorites. But to say they don't have question marks, that would be ridiculous. L'Jarius needs a big loss. Does Travis Kelce have anything left to give for this team? I mean, he's been an elite tight end for so many years, man. He's getting up there. Really slowed down last season, or at least late last season. But then he turned up in the playoffs when it matters, because that's what true star players do. And the Bills haven't learned that yet, aside from Josh Allen. But, they got question marks, man. It'd be silly to say that they don't have question marks. Anyway, real quick break, come back. Got a handful more of these to get to. All right, we are back here going through our weekly podcast or Podbag episode. This is the episode where you control the narrative, your questions, your comments, your takes. You want to be a part of the show? Comment on a video that we put out on our YouTube channel, Talk Buffalo Podcast YouTube channel. Of course, you can tweet at me or email talkingbuffalopodcast@gmail.com. Papa Booch says, and this is regarding my Jeff Skinner to Stephon Diggs comparison. The replacement for Diggs wasn't a veteran replacement, lower end depth piece. They literally spent a premium asset to replace him, who will be starting and contributing for years to come. Brutal comparison. All right, listen, Mike, and thank you for that, by the way. My comparison between Jeff Skinner and Stephon Diggs had zero to do with money. I want to put that out there. It's not about the money. And by the way, Jeff Skinner, not a veteran low-end piece. Jeff Skinner was a top 6 forward. Jeff Skinner was one of the leading goal scorers on his team for the last couple of years. Dude scored like 33 goals. 33? At least 3 times. Yeah, he had a 33 goal, 35 goal, and 40 goal season with the Sabres. He struggled at the end, got demoted near the end of the season, but don't call him a veteran low-end piece. Stephon Diggs' production took a tumble in the regular season and in the playoffs. Is he a low-end piece? No, he wasn't. So that's not accurate. I'm just going to say that. And in terms of, you're saying the Bills literally spent a premium asset to replace Stephon Diggs. I don't agree with that either. I don't agree with that. They drafted a guy at the top of the second round. Maybe your definition, maybe the viewer out there, your definition is different than my definition. But to me, the 33rd pick in the draft on a wide receiver, I'm not necessarily calling that a premium asset. To me, a premium asset would have been trading up to go get Rome Odunze, or even trade up to go get Brian Thomas Jr. That is a premium asset. Maybe hell, even keeping your pick at 28 and making that pick and taking a receiver. Even would have been Keon Coleman. So I'm not criticizing Keon Coleman, the player. I'm criticizing you calling it a premium asset. First round pick, maybe. Second round pick, not so much. So I don't agree with that. And so we're clear. My comparison with Stephon Diggs and Jeff Skinner was this. I was fine with the Bills trading Stephon Diggs when they traded him, just like I was fine with the Buffalo Sabres buying out Jeff Skinner. But at the time for each, my mindset was, and I've said this before, it's a chess move. They're cutting Stephon Diggs, or trading him, I should say, because they got something big or maybe even bigger planned. Like they're going to go get a T. Higgins, a Brandon Ayuk, or get really high up in the draft, a premium asset. And they didn't do that. So that disappointed me. I'm not saying it won't work out. I'm just saying at that time, that was my mindset and it disappointed me. The Sabres just got rid of Jeff Skinner. I thought, all right, they're buying out Jeff Skinner because Kevin Adams is on the verge of swinging a trade for a surefire top 6 forward. But that didn't happen. They signed a bunch of fourth line, third line guys. They have redone their bottom 6. And look, again, it's not me saying it's not going to work out. Maybe they'll be better off for it. But my mindset was Jeff Skinner getting bought out is because they're about to do something bigger. So that's where the comparison stems from with Stephon Diggs and Jeff Skinner. Nothing else. But again, thank you for the comment, but Jeff Skinner was not a veteran low-end piece, and I don't buy it that the Bills used a premium asset to replace Stephon Diggs. They didn't. Roman Buffalo Sports. I don't know, man. If you were on the other side of that deal, would you honestly do it? If someone came to us offering Krebs and their 4th best prospect or so, would you trade them Alex Tuck? All right, thanks for that. What he's talking about is on Twitter X a couple of days ago, I proposed maybe a way for the Sabres to add a top 6 forward is that they traded Peyton Krebs, Noah Aslan, who was a first-round pick a couple years ago, and a draft pick. And I suggested that would get a top 6 forward. That would get it done. What you're saying is fair. Maybe in hindsight, that doesn't get it done. I'm thinking from a Buffalo perspective, more from the other team's perspective. And that's an excellent comparison or scenario that you painted for me by saying, would you trade them Alex Tuck? Alex Tuck is a surefire top 6 forward. And no, I wouldn't. I would not trade Alex Tuck for Krebs, Aslan, and a draft pick. So you're right. Maybe you got to add another prospect. Maybe you got to add another pick. Maybe instead of Aslan, you You throw in Rosine. Hell, if it's the right top 6 guy, maybe you got to make it Yuri Kulik. But Krebs has no future, it seems anyway. It's doubtful, I should say, that Peyton Krebs has a real future in this organization. I'm not sure that Osling does either, especially after taking a center in Hellenius. So maybe you package them two with something else. Ryan Johnson. Again, another, maybe a Rosine or, a mid-level prospect or multiple picks, whatever it takes. But you got the cap space and you got the opportunity, at least for Kevin Adams, to go out and get a top 6 forward. I hope he's not done, but I do think he is. At Michael Andrew, just got a couple more of these left here. I honestly don't feel excited about either team right now. The Bills keep giving us hope and blowing it in the playoffs, and the Sabres are the biggest joke in sports. I would say this: have a mindset that better days are going to be ahead. Because look, nobody's been harder on the Buffalo Sabres than me. I mean, I have been teeing off on them on a weekly basis on this show. I do. I have called them the worst organization in sports multiple times this year. But early in the show, I talked about taking it for granted that the Bills have Josh Allen. Maybe I'm taking it for granted, maybe you are too, that Lindy Ruff is going to come in here and do a good job. Because Lindy Ruff is a get your team into the playoffs type of guy. And right now, after 13 years, if the Sabres made the playoffs as the 8th seed, I think there would be parades in this town right now. They got talent. This is not a team that doesn't have talent. We saw that 2 years ago. Hell, we saw it at times last year. And might feel gimmicky to some, but I think Lindy Ruff might be that guy. So that should give you some hope. And look, as for the Bills, sure, it's frustrating to have hope. I mean, the Buffalo Bills have been the betting favorite. I think they've been the betting favorite the last 2 years to win the Super Bowl. They've certainly been right at the top, and they're still kind of up high right now. And as long as Josh Allen is healthy, the Bills are going to be in the mix for years to come. So frustrated, sure, but in terms of giving up hope, I wouldn't do that. I think the Bills clearly should have you excited. And I think maybe on some level, maybe the Sabres should at least give you some optimism anyway. Michael says, I like that our bottom 6, how about the Sabres here, is tough now and arguably better, but we did nothing to replace Skinner. We need a top 6 goal scorer bad. If they're planning to put Zucker or Benson in the top 6, then we're in trouble. I just mentioned a few minutes ago. Don't see it happening, man. Do not see a big ad happening. It's about the guys they already have. That's what it's about. That top 6 is about the guys they already have playing better. Tage Thompson, you want Tage Thompson from 2 years ago. Ditto from Alex Tuck. JJ Paterka looked really good last year. You need him to build on that. Jack Quinn showed a lot of promise 2 years ago as a rookie and then got hurt twice. Him healthy, him out there, that's what they're counting on. More from Dylan Cousins. Dylan Cousins was awesome 2 years ago. Dylan Cousins, not awesome last year, but still young. Captain material, at least anyway. So that's 5 guys right there in your top 6. Young guys, under contract, some of them for a long time. The plan is for them to continue to grow and get better. Would it be nice to get that top 6, that 6 forward? Absolutely. Just don't see it happening at this point. Maybe I'm wrong. Hope I am. 3 more here. At Dennis Shaley, 2821. I'm sick and tired, and I'll have nothing to do with armchair GMs. If all you critics are so good, apply for a job on national sports networks. Okay. At DJJ D2077. So regarding Cobra Kai, season 4 was arguably the perfect place to end it if they wrote it better. The All Valley, Daniel and Johnny finally working together, the reintroduction of the most memorable Karate Kid villain, all the pieces were there. What else is there to do? I mostly agree with that. I really do. Look, I love Cobra Kai, love the Karate Kid movies, but I agree. At this point, I feel like it's overstayed its welcome. And no one loves going to the nostalgia well more than me. But yeah, it's time. And it is time because the last season is coming. In fact, July 19th, part one. I think they said November is going to be the second part. So the last year's 2 parts. It's kind of bullshit. It's basically 2 seasons. So I don't know why they call it 1 season, 2 parts when you got to wait like 3 months. But yeah, this has got to be it, man. They've told every part of the story they could tell, all the characters, all the callbacks to the movies. It feels like they've run that well dry. Um, I'm still going to watch. Still going to see how it ends. I'm very intrigued. Patrick Bateman, this is where to end this with this. Do you like anything besides chicken wings? Look, man, I like to post chicken wing pictures on my Twitter every time I have one, which is quite often. If you're being serious, I don't know what you are. I don't think you are, but sure, man. I like pizza and beef on whack and steak subs, steak chicken. That's just about it. About it, man. I'm a terrible eater. I'm a picky eater. I eat the same 5 and 6 things, maybe 7 over and over and over again. Thanks for calling me out on that. You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong. All right. That is going to do it for this episode. Again, thank you very much. And one more time, if you want to have your comment, your question, your take featured, reach out, tweet at me, email, leave a comment on our one of the Facebook videos, and I will pluck it. I'll pluck it. Thank you again. And like I said, I'll have another episode tomorrow. And then Friday, Bruce Nolan from the Bruce Exclusive. It's a conversation very much looking forward to. Talk to you soon.